Let's go over this one recruiting tip that will absolutely change your dynasty in college football 26. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, check out the ebook and also the Twitch. Let's hop into it. So what I want to show you guys is you could actually predict players that's going to be under recruited in this game, man. And that will help you tremendously as you know who to pursue day one, who to put hours in, and you know you don't have to wait until advancing a couple weeks and you see a couple 4 or 5 stars being under recruited. There's a couple different methods to really identify that week 0, man. We had the first portion of the season, man, the preseason, where all you could do is scout. You can't put hours in the players. And at this point, you're really able to identify guys that's under recruited, 4-star, 5 stars, especially the 4 stars. There's a lot of players here, man. So a couple things I'm looking for, man. So when you come over here, you want to look at the top schools. That's going to tell you a lot of information, and then also look at the state that the player is from. So kind of what we're looking for is the state and the top 5 schools not correlating, man. So we could kind of tell that this guy's from California. You see Oregon in there. You see UCLA. We know those 2 schools are going to have a pipeline boost. So this guy is probably going to be recruited. So we're going to continue to go through this guy from Illinois. This is one that's questionable. We'll add him. He may be under recruited. We'll add him. Let's continue to go down. Just try to find some outliers here, man. And just going through these 5 stars, I identified another one here. And it's this free safety right here, man. He's from Mississippi. And, you know, we're his number 1 school. This tells me this is a guy that just want to go out of state. He don't want to stay home. You got Miami, UCLA, Pitt. You got Auburn. Auburn's probably going to be the only school with like a pipeline boost because they're close to Mississippi. The other programs, the other schools are nowhere near Mississippi, man. Playing style is his deal breaker. So let's add Buddy. And same situation with Jackson right here. Another one, like you see, no one has a pipeline boost, man. And it seems like when the AI don't really have a pipeline boost, they're less likely to pursue this player. Even though they're starting off in this top 8, they don't have a pipeline boost. They don't view themselves as a real contender to go get this guy. So this is where you're really able to swoop in and steal some of these 5 stars. So at this point, I would go ahead, scout. You know, we're Georgia here just so we have a lot of hours to use and we're able to bring in some of these guys. But you could do this with a 1-star school, bro. You could do this with literally the worst program out there, man. You could do this method with anyone. And look at the free safety here, same exact situation. I said Auburn is the only school somewhat close. This is a guy that clearly want to go out of state. He want to get out of Mississippi. So if you're a random program, you have a fighting chance to go after this guy because no one has a pipeline boost. And you're able to find him at the 4-star level and also the 5-star level. And this guy's a gem. And I said, I think he will be under recruited. We'll see once we advance for both these guys. But let's come back over here to the prospect list. And the 4 stars is where you're really going to get your money, man. This is where you're really going to eat at. So just come over here. It's a couple different ways to do it. I like to just go by, you know, sort by guys I could at least recruit. I could at least go after and just go slow, man. First, if you see smaller programs, that is a green light for me, man. That's a green light. If I'm a small program and I see nothing but other small programs in the mix for a 4-star, perfect. I know I'm going to get him easier. He also probably is going to be recruited, under recruited. So this guy, he's from Georgia, and I would consider smaller programs outside of us, smaller programs in the mix, but we're number 1 on his board. Let's add him anyway. Continue looking down. Another Georgia guy, and also smaller programs. Arkansas State, I believe that is. What are they doing in there? Come on, they're number 3. Let's add them. And, you know, that's going to be probably another guy that's going to be a little bit under recruited. Let's continue to go through. Another one here, he's from Ohio, so I probably would stay clear of this one. But let's continue to look through. Another one here. This one is like borderline because, you know, he's from Louisiana. LSU is in the mix. And also Georgia's in the mix. Obviously, we're Georgia. But you do have some smaller programs. So I would at least add this guy. If I was a small program, I'd at least add this guy and see what the other schools are thinking, what they'll do, if they'll go at them or if they won't. Because a good chance they won't go at them. Another guy here. Go ahead, add him, and let's look at him immediately. I think no one will have a pipeline boost for him, man. I think this is a guy that just no one will have a boost. And not one school except for USC down there, but they're number 9. This is a prime example of a guy you could just come into the mix and probably still, man, and these players be good. It's not like he's obviously a bust, of course, but he's a bust, but his attributes still look fairly good across the board. But these guys will be good. Like you see the 5-star gem up here, who I think will be under recruited. Come back over here to the prospect list, and we're kind of going to keep going through, man. Keep going through these 4-star players and just identify guys that will be under recruited. This one right here is probably another one I would consider, man. So obviously you got a little bit of a couple smaller schools. He's from Florida, but you don't have really the big dogs. You don't got, Florida. You don't got Miami. You don't really have the big dogs, man. So this is another guy I would go ahead and add. And we're kind of slowly going through, and you'll quickly realize you could fill up like 15, 20 players. And, if you do it right, 10 of those guys will be under recruited, and you could get them pretty early and pretty easily. So this is another one right here, man. I'm going to add him. It's a chance he will be under recruited. Got some smaller schools there, and Texas schools should not have a pipeline boost for Buddy. This is another great example. Kid from Texas, and you got Rice, Baylor, you got UCLA, JMU. You got smaller programs in the mix. We're going to go ahead, add him to the board because that's another great one, man. So we got another one right here. Clemson is in the mix. He's from Alabama. And I know in this game, Clemson just dominates Alabama recruiting. You'll see certain teams dominating certain states. That's probably how it happens in real life. But Clemson goes crazy in Alabama. They seem to recruit better in Alabama than Alabama. So that makes me a little bit concerned. So I'll add them to the board. And if I see Clemson offer the scholarship, if I'm that smaller school and I see Clemson going after them, I might just pull out from the start, man. But if they don't offer the scholarship, I'm going to stay in. This is a phenomenal example. Look at this. Nothing but small schools. We're in the mix, but other than that, nothing but smaller programs. And these schools probably don't even have a pipeline advantage, man. So if I'm a small school and I see that, oh yeah, 100%. During the preseason, I'm offering a scholarship to him every single time. We got another interesting one here, man. So this kid is from Indiana. Another example of a guy that I would consider just want to get out of state, bro. What will I do in this situation? Because it's also big dogs involved. I would still offer the scholarship because no one's going to offer, or no one has a pipeline boost. And I feel like it kind of tricks the AI. Like, oh, we don't have a pipeline boost. Oh, we don't really have a chance. Or, we're not going to prioritize them at least. We're not going to go after them week one over the guys we do have the pipeline boost. So it's a guy that may be under recruited halfway through the year. And at the end, maybe some of them other teams will come in the mix. But because they don't have no pipeline boost, you can be good. You can build a big enough lead to go ahead and dominate that recruitment. And I wonder if it's some states that consistently produce players like this. If it is, I feel like Mass is one. Massachusetts is definitely one because there's no big programs around Mass. So when you do have the very good players come from Massachusetts, all of them want to go out of state and nobody have that pipeline boost. So Massachusetts could be a good state to consistently look at, and we'll check that out. Also, Hawaii is another state that might be very, very good to look at. After we kind of finish going through this whole entire list, we'll look at some of the specific states to see if we can identify some more. Another one here, you got a quarterback backfield creator from Ohio, and you do have, Cincinnati involved, which is a local team. But other than that, Ole Miss probably don't have a pipeline boost. Texas or SMU from Texas probably also don't have no type pipeline boost. So that's another good player to add. Even though it's some maybe bigger schools involved, I'm fine with, at least testing the waters on that one. Another great example, Louisiana kid, Lafayette, Louisiana. Nobody, he don't want to stay in Louisiana. He don't. He wants to get out. And guess what? We could definitely pursue him. And if you're a random program, one-stars team, you could compete with Eastern Michigan. You could compete with some of these smaller programs, Tulsa. So go ahead, offer that scholarship. That's going to be another guy I think will be very, very under-recruited. Run into another one right here. Georgia kid. And yeah, if we're Georgia, we're going to absolutely dominate this recruitment. I don't even think anyone else might not even offer the scholarship. So let's continue to look through, man. And you'll even see a guy like this. He's from Kentucky. Kentucky is in the mix, but Kentucky a smaller SEC school, man. If you're a 1-star, you still might not be able to compete. But let's say you're, a 4-star, 3-star prestige, you might be able to come in and swoop in and steal a guy like this because Kentucky might just not the best program, man. A guy like this from Jersey, and no local teams are interested. No one will have a pipeline boost. Maybe Buffalo will be the only school with a pipeline boost in that top 5. Definitely going to offer that scholarship. So I'm going to continue to look through, and I kind of get the method at this point, man. This one is an interesting one because Ohio State is right there. The rest of the schools I could compete with, but Ohio State, from a kid from Ohio, I probably would just avoid that. But I'm going to go through, try to find 25 of these players that I'm trying to identify. It's another one right here from Utah. Maybe USC will dominate that one. We'll add them. That one is a kind of a borderline one. But a kid from Arizona, that's another one where maybe South Carolina is the only school with a real pipeline boost there, but we won't add them. So like I said, I'm going to just continue to go through. Pennsylvania kid, you got Texas. It's another one, no one has a pipeline boost. So I filled up a whole 35-person recruiting class with guys I think that might be under-recruited. That might be. We won't go 35 for 35. There's going to be some guys that, I predict wrong. But the point is, if we get at least half of these guys, or just a good number, that is great. Like, just being able to predict guys that's going to be under-recruited is very good. Now, you see a lot of these guys don't have many pipeline boosts for the schools that's in their top 8 at all. Or it's a guy that's, from a state and he just want to go all the way out of state to a team that, really might not even have interest in him. So we filled up a whole class, nothing but 4 and 5 stars. Now, I also want to come over here to the prospect list, and I want to kind of go state by state, man, because I think it is possible, to identify state by state. So if we go to, let's go to Massachusetts. I was able to find a couple 4-star guys from Mass that I felt like was going to be under-recruited. And I added all 4 guys. Maybe all 4 of them don't get under-recruited, but I was able to find 4 guys. Also, I think Wisconsin was another pretty good state where I was consistently finding guys. Found 2 guys, 2 4-stars that I felt like was going to be a little bit on the under-recruited side. So Wisconsin seemed like another pretty good state. I wonder if Hawaii, let's go over to Hawaii, see if we could identify. They might not even have any 4-stars. And they do have 1 4-star, and they might have a pipeline boost, West Coast teams, but I doubt it. I would say Hawaii is probably another good state to look at just initially to see if you can find some under-recruited guys. Connecticut is another state to look at, man. Just kind of some of them states where it's not a dominant program in, man. I think those are some of the states to definitely look at. Like a guy like this, we didn't add him to the board, but Penn State is probably going to be the only school to have any type of Connecticut pipeline. Probably the only school. So we ain't add them because we can only add 25 or 35. It's way more than 35 guys. But we did add this one who he wants to go to Texas. Like, come on, bro. Florida, Louisiana, none of these schools is going to have a Connecticut pipeline. So if you're just a random program, you could definitely come in and maybe steal a guy. Arizona might be another state. I think I found a couple Arizona guys, found at least one. Yeah, this guy, I felt like no one's going to really have a great pipeline boost. So point is, just look at a couple of these states. This guy also, Indiana. There's a couple states out there. I think Minnesota is another pretty good state to check on just to see if anything looks a little bit off. Any of them recruits don't have anyone stellar. And yeah, just check, man. 'Cause you never know what you're gonna find. And this West Virginia kid might also be another pretty good one. We didn't add him to the board, but he is a 5-star. And Penn State might have a pipeline boost over there. It's a chance that they don't have a West Virginia pipeline boost. So that really could be another guy. I'm interested. I actually want to add him. Let's remove this guy who, could be under-recruited. I want to add that 5-star to see if that's going to be a third 5-star that we could predict will be under-recruited. So add him to the board, and Tennessee is actually the only school with any tier pipeline boost. So that's a third 5-star we're able to at least add to the board. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to advance. I'm not even going to offer these guys a scholarship. I just want to advance and see who offers the scholarship, who doesn't? And that's a prime example of week one. Like when you advance to week one, who offers a scholarship and who doesn't. That just tells you who's going to be under recruited and who's not, man. Let's make sure we turn all the recruiting off. And let's go ahead and advance. So advancing to week one, let's go through some of these players and just looking through. I think we've done a solid job identifying enough guys that's, going to be under recruited. This is a 5-star. This is a very, very good player, the number 2 player in the nation, and he's a gem. Come on, man. 5-star, number 2 player in the nation, gem. And I would consider him on the under recruited side. 2 schools offer him a scholarship as, really the best player in the whole entire nation, probably coming out of high school, and 2 teams with a very, very small pipeline boost. Like, this is a guy, if I'm looking to get into a mix for a 5-star, this is a guy I'm 100% going to pursue. Like, you're not getting the 5 stars with no scholarship offers. You'll get some 4 stars, but this is a guy I would consider under recruited. So that's a good one. Our second guy, same exact situation. We offered a scholarship and only Auburn. Another guy I would consider on the under-recruited side, and you see these teams with no pipeline boost not offering a scholarship. Here, the teams with no pipeline boost didn't offer a scholarship. Same here, other than us. Don't offer the scholarship. Another under-recruited 5-star player. This guy, 2 teams offer a scholarship. Another 5-star player, number 8 guy in the nation, under-recruited. So I would say we went 3 for 3 on our 5 stars, just identifying guys that's going to be under recruited. And like I said, 5 stars, you're not really going to see them with no scholarships after week 1, week 2. You're not really going to see that. Now with the 4 stars, we also did solid. This guy, I would call a little bit of a miss, but the teams that's going after him might be a little bit on the smaller side. You do have Auburn and Tennessee in there, but this is a guy you still might get into a dogfight for the recruitment with. This guy, I would consider on the more under-recruited side. Good player here, and the only Auburn is the only, real program, real threat here to, come out and dominate this recruitment. If you're a smaller guy, smaller team, you could definitely get into the mix with that. 4-star player here from Louisiana, and you do have LSU, you do have Tulane, you do have some of the other bigger schools involved. So I would call this probably a miss. He definitely got a lot of offers out there, and LSU could be an issue. This guy, no one has a pipeline boost. Even the 2 schools offering a scholarship, they might not prioritize him because they don't have the pipeline boost, man. I feel as though they focus on like pipeline early on recruiting with the CPU. So they offer the scholarship, but they might play the long game and, go after them week 15, week 16. So if you go put the 50 hours in initially, I think you will be in a very, very good spot, man. This is, for me, like, my thought process is like, you're trying to convince him. You're not in his top 10 when, you're starting the recruiting process. Another guy here, under-recruited. He's from Florida. You do have Florida State offering a scholarship. So that's a little bit concerning because them Florida schools be going crazy. But under-recruited guy. Another one right here, right guard. No one has a pipeline boost from Minnesota. Nobody wants them. Free for now. You got to get in early and really put some hours in early on. But another guy, under-recruited, we did good predicting that guy. This one from Texas, and you do have some Texas teams, some teams with some pipelines in there. So it's a guy, you do have smaller programs. Your biggest school, UCLA in there, other than us. This is a guy I think you could 100% win. Another one here, he's from Alabama, and you have 2 of the smaller Texas schools. Texas Tech, obviously, a better program nowadays, but this is another guy on the under-recruited side, and we don't have a crazy pipeline boost. Another one here from Georgia, and you have smaller programs in the mix. A 4-star tight end, you could go ahead and get. Indiana guy who Indiana is in the mix, and this is a guy that Indiana might dominate this recruitment, so that's one thing to be aware of. But one I for sure think you get in on, a Massachusetts guy. Man, we talked about the Mass guys. I think this is one you could 100% get in on. Syracuse in the mix, only one offering a scholarship for now. Another one from Georgia, and you have Stanford, only school offering a scholarship. I mean, I hope y'all seeing the trend here, man. Ohio kid and, Mississippi in there, Ole Miss in there, but they don't have no pipeline boost. Who knows if they continue to pursue him after offering that scholarship. And then the other schools you could compete with, they're smaller. Another one here from Louisiana. You got Mississippi State and Rice. Smaller programs. Mississippi State do have the tier 3 pipeline boost, but this is one I feel comfortable pursuing. There's no big dogs in the mix. Another one here, Georgia kid. You got UCLA and Kansas State offering a scholarship. I feel good about that. I feel good about go ahead and trying to win that recruitment. A Jersey kid. You got Miami trying to get into the mix. Under-recruited guy. Another one. Utah, under-recruited. Once again, 3 schools in the mix. And, BYU is the only one with the real good pipeline boost. Another under-recruited guy. PA kid. Smaller schools, you got A&M right there, but they might not even pursue him. They don't have a great pipeline boost. Another under-recruited guy, man, and we was able to identify this once again by looking at his hometown, where he's from, and the schools he's interested in. They don't really, I don't say they don't make sense, but it's just a guy that want to leave home. He don't want to stay close to home. Massachusetts kid. You do have some of the big dogs, Oregon and Penn State, offering that scholarship. Penn State is the one to keep an eye on because they do have the pipeline boost there. Another Texas kid, and you do have some Texas schools involved. I would say this one is, questionable if you want to pursue or not, just because a couple schools involved. Georgia kid, Georgia Tech is in there, but the other school don't have no pipeline boost, man. San Diego State, probably not going to win this recruitment. Probably not. You could come in and win this one. Massachusetts, a lot of offers. This one, probably a miss. This one I will probably consider a miss. He's being over recruited maybe. This one, another borderline one. Your top school don't have any pipeline boost at all, so you maybe could get into the mix. Another one here from Arizona, and this is open. This is free game. I would consider this free game. Nothing but small programs. I would go after this guy every single time if I'm another small program or if I'm even a big program. Another one right here. Probably a miss. Yeah, probably a miss. Would maybe avoid. Another one here, maybe also a miss, but smaller programs, I wouldn't be against getting involved. And Texas kid, but no one has a crazy pipeline boost. Smaller schools offering a scholarship. Feel good about that one. Massachusetts kid, once again, where I talked about them. This one, borderline, getting in on the mix on. Connecticut kid, no scholarship offer. Free 99. 4-star, top 62 player in the nation. And let's scout him, man. Let's see if he's any good. I mean, route artist, not a gem, not a bust. Looks solid. 86 speed. That's the norm nowadays. Another one right here, Wisconsin kid. Wisconsin did offer the scholarship, and they do have the 5 pipeline boost. But yeah, top 100 player here. Maybe you could get into the mix. It's up to you. The 5-tier pipeline boost, is what it is. Another one right here, same deal with the 5-tier pipeline boost, and Wisconsin right there. He's a bust, so probably will avoid him. And then Ohio, last one, and the same situation when it comes to smaller schools offering a scholarship, and maybe some of them don't have the best pipeline boost. So just some food for thought, man. You're able to identify these guys that's going to be under-recruited early on in the process, and it could help you out later on. The farther ahead you could get, instead of waiting, advancing a couple weeks and seeing who's under-recruited, then pursuing them, you're losing out on time, bro. You're losing out on time. If you're able to identify that week 0, the preseason, and pursue them the whole entire time, you will get a farther enough lead to when them big dogs come involved. It's too late. It is too late, man. So just to go over the method one more time, look for guys that want to get out of their state, that, they're from Connecticut, but all schools in their top 5 are West Coast kids, man, or on West Coast schools. Them West Coast schools might not even pursue them, so you could swoop in and get into the mix. Or maybe it's a kid from Ohio, but it's a lot of smaller schools involved. They might have a pipeline boost, but they're all small schools. You could compete with that. So get involved, and if you're the big dog, you could definitely compete with that because your hard sell is going to be way better than their hard sell. So definitely get involved, man. But that's all I got for y'all boys today. If y'all enjoyed this content, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, check out the ebook / membership, and we're on to the next one. Appreciate y'all.